Welcome to IBH, Emotional Health and Resilience, Strategies for Managing Stress, Anxiety, and Fear with COVID-19. My name is Dr. Ellen Contenti, and I'm the founder of Heart Centered Programs, which is a consulting and training company. I have my doctorate and master's in spiritual psychology, and I'm also the best-selling author of M&M's, Motivational Musings to Live an Inspired Life. And I was actually contacted directly by IBH, who I have a long-standing relationship with, to put this program together for you today, because I know so many people are on edge. So we're going to talk about in this webinar how to overcome our stress. But the first thing I want to share with you or state is this disclaimer that this presentation does not provide medical advice. We are going to talk about strategies and tips, but the information is for informational purposes only. So if you are feeling ill or sick, please make sure that you seek the advice of your physician or any other qualified healthcare provider. So let's take a look at what we are going to talk about in today's webinar. So we're going to be focusing primarily on how to overcome stress and anxiety, but we'll first look at what are some of the normal responses that people have when you're dealing with stressful situations. And so that we can also understand the difference between, panic and fear and living from a place of fact, right? And putting into place the strategies that we need to manage our stress. So we'll focus on self-care strategies, things that we can specifically do for ourselves, but also what we can do to help our loved ones and children if we have children at home. And then there's also some links here to other resources like the CDC and the World Health Organization, and also just as a reminder, the resources available through IBH. So let's look at what are considered normal responses. Now, a lot of people, since this first began, are living in a new normal. We're all living in a new normal. But depending upon, what you're experiencing currently, you could be shocked, confused, anxious, fearful, angry. I know a lot of people are angry right now. Could feeling helpless or overwhelmed. So these are common responses. So one of the things that we want to do is help us through these different responses really and get to the other side, being able to feel clear and calm and have more clarity. So to understand where this panic and fear comes from, a lot of it is misinformation or fear-based communication. So we want to make sure that when we're listening to the messages that are being broadcast, whether it's media, things that we're reading, what people are saying, you want to ask yourself, is this truly a fact, or is this fear-based gossip or fear-based anxiety that is putting forth misinformation? So make sure it's evidence versus emotion. We also want to make sure that we're not stigmatizing any particular group because of where the virus began or maybe where people traveled to or from. So let's look at again, let's go back to what are the facts here. And we want to maintain a positive outlook. In the midst of crisis, it's even more important for us to see beyond what is currently in the moment, to see the future and see it from a positive perspective. Maintain a positive outlook about the future. Let's flip the fear into faith in terms of having faith that everything's going to work out. We want to also make sure that if we are dealing with a lot of fear or we're feeling that we're in a panic mode, that we reach out for support. We talk to friends, we talk to family. I know on the news right now, they're advising people not to go, panic shop, hoard things for weeks or for months. Let's make sure there's things available for everyone. That's fear-based shopping. So let's look at the facts that tell us, the stores will be replenished, the stocks will be replenished. There are enough supplies for everyone. if we come at this from, an evidence fact-based reality. And again, make sure that you're utilizing your EAP and your healthcare resources to support you. So let's look at what stress is. So stress is our body's way of trying to function when it's got, an overload on it. And when it becomes chronic, it turns into distress. It creates a hostile environment in your body. Susan B. Johnson stated this. And we're all under a lot of stress on a day-to-day basis. But when it becomes overwhelming, as it is for a lot of people today, it affects our physical, emotional bodies, and it becomes even harder to overcome the day-to-day things that we have, and it also affects our ability to fight off, viruses, and it affects our immune system. So what exactly is stress? As I said, it's a response to the demands of life. And when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel overloaded, it's a struggle for us to just meet the demands that are right in front of us. And our bodies have a natural defense against stress. It's the fight, the flight, or even the freeze mechanism. Right? So again, depending upon what your normal stress response is, many people feel like, all right, I'm just going to fight this. I'm going to do what I have to do to fight this. Or I'm going to retreat. I'm going to pull the covers over my head until this is gone. Or I'm just so fearful, or the deer in the headlights response, that kind of freeze response. Now, stress is personal in that everybody has a different response to stressors. So it could be on a scale of very mild, right, to very extreme. And many times you won't really know exactly where you are, but your behavior tends to change. So if you're feeling really anxious, your response might be that you're quick to arguments, or you lose your patience, or more aggressive. I think, a lot of people, when they are really highly stressed, it's your body's way of trying to handle that stress with your fight, flight, or freeze. And the more stressors we experience, the more stressed we tend to feel, which is, obviously very normal. And I think, again, for a lot of people, the straw, right, that breaks the camel's back, right, for us right now is dealing with all of the uncertainty. So stress affects our health, obviously, but it affects our overall well-being. And our well-being is, devised from our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health, our finances, our communities, our relationships. So when we're dealing with something that is so stressful, it not only affects our ability to manage day to day, but it affects the physical body in that, adrenaline is increased. So it will affect our heart rate, our blood pressure. Again, cortisol will surge. Again, it's the body's way of trying to deal with the stressor. But if we have too much stress, and there's too much cortisol in the body, which is caused by chronic stress, it's responsible for decreasing the immune function, which makes it even harder to fight off viruses. That's why a lot of times when people are very stressed, they tend to get sick more often, more colds, more flus, more fatigue. But you may also see it affecting your body in different ways. So let's take a look at that. So the physical signs of stress. So how do you know that you're really under a lot of stress? And I think it's important for everyone to recognize what their own individual stress response is, because we're under so much stress every day. Sometimes it's hard to know that it's stress. We feel like it's almost a normal way of living every day, but it's not. So let's take a look. Well, I'm just going to go down the list with you, and I want you to, as I'm going through these, I want you to make a mental note or even jot down for yourself Which of the stressors are you currently experiencing? So for a lot of people, and my dentist actually told me I do this, is grind my teeth. So if you wake up, for example, with a headache, or even you're feeling tension in the jaw, a lot of that has to do with clenching your jaw and grinding your teeth. As I just mentioned, if you have frequent colds or you seem to be sick more often, that's another sign that you're under a lot of stress. Our appetites absolutely are affected by stress. Some of us eat more, kind of that stress eating comfort food, and some people eat less. You'll also absolutely be affected in your digestive system, your intestinal system when you're under a lot of stress. That may represent itself as heartburn or nausea or even, IBS, where you just have irritable bowel syndrome because of all the stress. Other people have nervous habits, and you'll definitely know if you're one of those people, tapping your fingers, tapping your feet, being really fidgety, picking your fingernails, picking your eyelashes. There's many different ways that those nervous habits show up. It also affects not just the physical body, your emotional body and your cognitive body through difficulty in focusing or concentrating. And again, for today, in today's new normal, it is very challenging to concentrate on just the day-to-day because we have so many other things that we're focusing on and trying to understand. So that's fairly normal. But again, if you're having an overwhelming difficulty here, that's because of stress. It also, because our senses are so heightened when we're on alert, it can be really hard to just relax and calm down. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to go through some very specific exercises that you can do. Now, other people, are high up, with a difficult time to be able to calm down. And then there's the low energy exhaustion on the other end of the spectrum. Again, your body is trying to deal with so much stress that it has depleted so much of its energy, so you will feel exhausted. And again, many people do feel exhausted at the end of the day, just trying to manage everything. Headaches, muscle tension, aches and pains all over your whole body. I mentioned the gastrointestinal difficulties. Sleep troubles and disturbing dreams are very common when you're under a lot of stress. And again, grinding your teeth happens a lot at night as well. So you may wake up again with a headache, with jaw aches and pains throughout your body. Some people also have elevated heart rate, and then it may manifest with sweating. So I want you to, again, just take a moment and identify for yourself what are the most common physical signs of stress for you, because awareness is the first step. You absolutely have to know when you are under an exorbitant amount of stress so that you know what to do. So let's start to look at that. And while I do that, I am also going to drink a little bit of water. And I recommend that you always keep a bottle of water with you and stay hydrated. So it might seem basic, but it's helpful to review. And I've been talking about this already. But the first thing to do when you're stressed is to recognize that you are stressed. It's okay to say, you know what? I think I'm under a lot of stress right now. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to those signs and those signals that your body is sending you. And it's sending it to you physically and emotionally. The second thing to pay attention to is, what was the trigger? What can I identify that just made me feel stressed? Or what is going on that is creating that? Now, we know today COVID-19 is one of the biggest triggers. And the other thing we want to pay attention to here is the stressor something I can control? Right? Is it out of my control, or is it something that I can absolutely take some control over? And if it's something that you can take control over, what are you willing to do to alleviate the stress? What action or help do I need to be able to do that? So one of the most important things here is to recognize that while what is going on with the COVID-19 virus, where it's going to go next, how long it's going to be around, when am I going to be able to go back to work, all of those things that are creating stress. Those things are, the answers to those are out of my control. I don't have the answer, but I can change how I think about all of this. I can change my thoughts. I can move from fear into having faith that I'm going to be able to get through this and I'm going to be okay. So building your stress toolkit starts with a willingness to make those changes. So we'll use for an example here this idea that meditation is something I want to do to be able to alleviate my stress, to help me with my stress. And in order to meditate for 20 minutes in the morning, it would mean that I would have to get up 20 minutes earlier. And I want to do that, but am I willing to do that? That's a big part of changing habits. That's a big part of reaching goals, is we have to be willing to do what is necessary. And it is about change. Things are different today. We have a new normal and things continue to change. And so we have to be flexible. We have to be willing to do the things that we need to do. So it's okay to recognize that I might want something, but I'm not 100% there yet in terms of making those changes. So maybe you're not going to get up 20 minutes earlier to do meditation, as this example is, but you could be willing to get up a few minutes earlier and just sit quietly and just breathe. Right? That's a start. And it's also about taking baby steps, especially when you're under a lot of stress and it's very fearful and uncertain times. It seems even more overwhelming to make those drastic changes in your habits. So take baby steps and be willing to do one thing to help you manage your stress. So when we look at what is in our control, and when we're under a lot of stress, it's important to recognize we can only control ourselves. So let's look at a list of things that you do absolutely have in your control right here and right now. So I'm going to say the first thing is you can absolutely control what you think. You can absolutely control what you think. What you say yes to, what you say no to. You can control your honesty when you talk to people. Share how you're feeling. Be honest with yourself about how you're feeling. Be honest with yourself about how much stress you're under. And when we're under a lot of stress, we might need to pull back a little bit in terms of, how much work we're doing at home or how much effort it takes to handle all the things that we're doing. So be more realistic with your expectations. I love how much you smile and say thank you. And as I'm reading this, I'm putting a smile on my face. And smiling has such a huge effect on our well-being. Just the simple act of smiling makes you feel better. And it's contagious in a good way, right? Let's have a pandemic of smiles. Let's make sure that we are appreciating each other and saying thank you. I also have control over, gossiping. I'm going to say complaining. How much am I complaining about everything? What am I saying that is creating maybe more stress? So I can control that. I absolutely can control how much time I spend on social media or the news or TV or where I'm putting my attention. Not saying that TV or social media is necessarily bad, and especially now that we're doing social distancing. And for us today, that is the way we are connecting, through social media. But we want to make sure, again, that we have control over what that is, what the messages are that we're receiving and what we're putting out there. And also whether or not, we're going to ask for help. I have control over whether or not I want to ask for help. I have control over whether or not I have the capacity to give help. But I believe one of the number one things that you have control over are your thoughts. So how am I thinking about all of this? What am I going to do to make sure that I am in control of positive thoughts. I want to have more positive thoughts. That's going to create a more positive outlook. Okay, so what you cannot control, and as I said, we can't control what's happening out in the world right now to a certain extent. I'll come back to that in a moment. We can't control other people. This is a big one, especially now that we're spending time at home. We've got our kids at home, maybe our spouse or roommates. We're working from home. So we can only control how we respond to things and how we act and how we behave. We can model good behavior, but we can't control other people. So we can't control our spouse. We can't have them think the way we think, but we need to make sure that we are still there for each other. We can, of course, as it says, be good friends and help each other, but we also have to recognize the difference between helping and meddling or overextending yourself. Because when you overextend, again, you're creating even more stress. So be aware of where you're doing that, when you're doing that, and maybe even why you're doing that. And be willing to say, maybe I'm overextending because I'm trying to control something that I just can't control. So when we look at stress and the things that are creating even more stress, it's fear. A lot of people today, myself included, from moment to moment, right, are worrying about what might happen. And again, the more we worry, the more stressed we feel. And we're actually creating or projecting a catastrophic future that may or may not happen. Right? So when we think about what we're most fearful about, it's important to find ways to really identify it. So what is the worst case scenario with your fear? Is the worst case scenario that, the stock market's going to bottom out and you're going to, all of your 401s and your finances are going to be wiped out? Is that your worst case scenario? What is the worst case scenario that everyone in your family is going to be sick? What is the worst case? It helps sometimes to really write out the worst case scenario and look at it. And then ask the question, what is the likelihood that this is really going to happen? Because most worst case scenarios don't manifest. We create them in our minds, but they don't happen out there. And it's important to recognize that. And again, with the COVID-19 virus, one thing to keep in mind is while it is spreading worldwide, still about 85% of people that may contract the virus will only have mild or moderate symptoms, and the majority of people will make a full recovery. So we want to look at that from the perspective of, what is the silver lining here? What is, one thing that I can know for sure that is positive here? Can I redirect my thinking as well to something more positive? So if we look at this also from a silver lining of what we're experiencing, a lot of people are looking at the situation from the perspective of, how can I be more of service? How can I reach out and give more? Right? How can I support my family, my friends, my neighbors? We've seen videos online of people in Italy and in, I think, Spain, standing on their balconies and thanking and each other and singing. Right? Let's look for silver linings of connecting. I think that's really important, especially when we're in fear. So now let's look at self-care. And I'm going to take another sip of water. I'm going to invite everybody as well. Let's all salute to some water. So we want to be taking good care of ourselves. And this is not selfish. This is self-care importance. And if we don't take care of ourselves, first of all, we can't take care of anybody else. It's the oxygen mask theory. Right? On airplanes, when you're traveling and they go through the safety announcements, they always tell you, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, so that you can then take care of others. So let's look at all the different ways that we can currently practice self-care. So we do want to start with the basics, because stress shows up in these primary areas. And we've looked at those physical signs earlier in terms of stress eating, right? Not getting enough exercise, having a lot of fatigue, and it affects our sleep. So when we are under a lot of stress, we can start self-care with the basics, and first and foremost, having a healthier diet. Now, I know a lot of people have been stressed about shopping. A lot of the stores, have sold out of basic items, but there's still plenty of healthy food on the shelves. Go to your produce section, pick up, fresh fruits and vegetables, drinking, again, lots of water. Let's make sure that we are eating, healthy, nutritious diets. It's also important to recognize that even though our gyms and our Ys have closed, we can still get exercise, taking a walk outside. We can do some exercise in our homes. I have I won't say a full gym, but I have, dumbbells, and I have exercise bands. I have downloaded some exercise videos on my smartphone. I still have very old videos that I can pop into my TV and do exercises at home. So it's important to continue our exercise practice. And it can just be simple stretching. It doesn't have to be any major workout, but it's important to take those breaks and stretch and move and get some physical exercise. That will also help you sleep. So if you're having some trouble sleeping, doing some more physical exercise is really important. But if sleep is a challenge, some of the strategies here are make sure that, your bedroom is conducive to getting a good night's sleep. So it should be dark. It should be a little bit on the cool side. Make sure that if you have any, a lot of TV and computers and lights in your bedrooms, cover those, any of those blue or red lights, because they will affect your sleep. So cover those and unplug a good 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed, again, to let your mind quiet down. So that's the basics: food, exercise, sleep. Now let's look at some additional things that we can do for self-care. So we've already talked about, awareness and acknowledging your situation. It doesn't help you to deny what you're feeling. That's so important. I know a lot of people are trying to put on a brave face, especially for their kids. And it's important to be aware of and acknowledge what's going on, but also to keep things in perspective. As I said, most people, if they do get sick, will make a full recovery. This is not going to last forever. Let's keep things in perspective. The stores will get replenished. So if you go to the store today and you can't find something, it will be replenished. So we want to set realistic expectations with ourselves about how much work we're going to be able to get done at home, realistic expectations working with our kids, especially with their schoolwork if they're home from school, and also realistic expectations about the new normal. We're not used to being home with each other, or a lot of people aren't used to being home with each other all the time. So expect that it could be a little tense at times. Expect that there could be little blips and flare-ups. That's a normal thing to expect. We talked about sleep, diet, and also a lot of us have unhealthy coping strategies. This is a perfect opportunity to recognize them, acknowledge them, and practice better ways of managing our stress. So cut back on, too much junk food or sugar, and, unhealthy drinks like sodas and anything high in sugar, and make sure that we're drinking more water. Okay. So now I'm going to move into some very specific techniques and strategies and tips that we can do to better manage our stress. So I'll go through these 4. The first one is deep breathing. Again, this one is so simple. because when you're very stressed, we tend to breathe very shallow. So one of the first things that we can do, and actually I'll click to the next slide, is to really focus on taking long, slow, deep breaths, because this will help disengage our mind from all those distracting thoughts. So I'm going to invite you right now just to take a nice deep breath in from your nose, hold, and release. We'll do it again. Let's take a nice deep breath in, hold, and then release. And as you're doing that, you can absolutely hold the thought in your mind of peace or calm. So as you breathe in, you can even say that silently to yourself, peace, and release on calm. So the longer you hold your breath, right, and then release, the more calming, the more relaxing. And you can do this for, a couple of minutes. You can set aside 10 minutes and do it, or you can just do it at any time that you feel really tense. Just take some nice, deep, centering breaths. All right, let's look at the second one, which is a body scan. And there's two different ways you can do a body scan. So you're going to start with your breath. Again, just take some nice, deep breaths in. And as you're breathing in, I want you to bring your awareness to a part of your body where you're holding some stress. So as you're scanning your body, mine just went right to my shoulders and to my head, right? Because I tend to get headaches when I'm stressed, and I hold a lot of tension in my shoulders. So as you're doing your body scan and you're breathing, again, nice relaxation, relaxing breaths, focus on that one part where you feel the tension and just physically release the tension in your mind. See that muscle just relaxing. Visualize the muscle just literally melting. This improves your awareness as well to the mind-body connection. Now, another way to do this body scan is to do what's called a progressive relaxation exercise. So you can start at your toes, start at the bottom, your feet, your toes, and just tense those muscles, and then relax them. So you would tighten up your toes and then open them up and wiggle them. And moving up your body, you will do the same thing, right? So if we move up and include like the lower half of our body and just tense as tight as you can, and then relax, right? Feel with each relaxation, those muscles just melting. And if you're sitting doing this, you should feel the heaviness on your chair. Feel even more relaxed with each muscle relaxation, tense and relax. So as you're moving up your body, right, you include your upper chest all into your hands, tight with fists, and then let it go and shake it out. Right, wiggle your fingers, shake out your arms. And for the last one, all the way up from your toes, including your whole body, including your face, scrunch up your face and your hands and your feet and your fists, tight. And then let it out and shake it off. And if you do this standing up, and a great way to finish this exercise is just complete it with like a rag doll. And what I mean by rag doll is just kind of forward, release, don't hit anything. Make sure you're not too close to your desk or anything when you do your rag doll, but just shake it out. Again, you're just shaking out the tension, and it's another great way to just relax. So let's look at number 3, guided imagery. So here's another beautiful way that we can relax and relieve some stress. I call this one, go to my happy place. Because what we're going to do is actually conjure up a scene, a place, an experience that helps us relax. And it's a place that brings us joy. So you're going to start again with some nice deep breaths. Nice, relaxing, deep breaths. And you're gently going to close your eyes. And I'm going to invite everybody as I go through this to do it with me. So nice deep breath in and release. Another nice deep breath in and release. And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are at this soothing place, whether it's a physical place like the beach, maybe it's the mountains or the desert, maybe you're with family members or friends, or you're playing with your kids or your pets, having an experience that you enjoy. So as you continue to breathe, and each breath deepening your relaxation, you're going to invoke all 5 senses into your guided imagery. So what do my eyes see? So I'll use the beach as my example. So what do my eyes see? Well, I see the blue ocean. I see clouds in the sky. I see children playing in the water. I see people throwing frisbees to their dogs. Right? What do my eyes see? Then what do my ears hear? Well, I can hear the waves crash on the shore. I can hear kids laughing. I can hear dogs barking. And what do I hear? I actually hear birds. What do I smell? Take a nice deep breath as we continue to breathe and smell whatever is present in your scene. I can smell the ocean. I can smell suntan lotion on my skin. What am I smelling? Then also, what can I taste? Right? You can absolutely taste the salt on your tongue. Right? I can taste the water. I can taste ice cream. What am I tasting? And then what am I feeling tactfully? Will I feel the sand on my toes or the coolness of the water on my feet? What am I feeling? I feel the wind in my hair. So as I continue to breathe and continue to relax and be fully present and focused just on this place or this experience. And this is a place that is relaxing, calming, and also bringing me some joy. So let's take another nice deep breath. Be present in our place. And when we're ready, let's just open our eyes and let's know that we can always come back here. I did this just for a short, I think it was a minute maybe. You can do it for a full 5, a full 10, but a guided imagery is a really simple way that you can relax. Okay? And you can actually record one for yourself to then listen to as well. All right, let's look at the next one, number 4, mindful meditation. Now with mindful meditation, we're going to sit comfortably and we're just focusing on our breathing. And what we're trying to do here is just bring our attention just to the present moment without drifting into the past or worrying about the future. It's just about being here and being now. And as it says, this has become increasingly popular in recent years, and we can extend mindfulness to other practices. But the first thing we're going to do is just take some nice deep breaths and just be present. And the simplest way to do it is just bring your full attention to your breath. So as you're breathing in, again, using your 5 senses, you can hear your breath, you can feel it. Can you see it? If you're doing this outside, can you see your breath? But again, just bring your attention just to your breath. And when a thought comes into your head that is any thought, truthfully, that is in the past or in the future, just bring it right back to your breathing. Now, another way that you can use this activity to relieve your stress, a mindful activity, is bring it into day-to-day things that you do. Eating is a great way to practice mindfulness. So when we are creating a mindful eating activity, what we're doing is being present with the meal. And you can do this even if you're eating with other people. But what we want to do is invoke again all 5 senses. So set a beautiful place setting. Invoke your eyes in how beautiful the meal looks. Right? How many different colors do I see? How many different textures are there on my plate? When I pick up my utensil, feel the weight of the fork or the spoon or the knife in your hand. Or when you pick up a glass to drink from, feel the weight of it. Does that change when you drink a little bit from your glass of water, whatever you're drinking? Right? Can you feel the difference? When you eat, really taste the food. Can your tongue really discern salty and sweet and spicy and bitter? Pay attention and be mindful to the different tastes and textures in your mouth. Fully chew and embrace the entire meal from the first fork to the very end. Allow yourself to just be present with the meal. Fully enjoy it. Make it a mindful activity. You can do this with cleaning. You can do this with exercising. You can do it with anything. And again, the point is to bring your mind to the present without drifting into the past or the future. Let's look at number 5. These activities, these practices involve breathing with physical movement. So yoga, tai chi, qigong, they're very helpful because they involve physical postures that can distract your mind from all the mental clutter, because you have to put your full attention on keeping the physical posture. Now, I've done all 3 and 100% have to focus so that, I don't fall over, focus so that I keep my body in proper form. And it's also a way to keep, combine your breathing. So there's a lot of breath work that goes in here. Now, again, these activities are things that you can do from home. They don't require a lot of space or equipment. You can download apps. You can find yoga classes online or these different practices online. So don't worry if you can't go to a class that you used to go to. Now let's look at the last one. Number 6, repetitive prayer and mantra. This is one of my favorite ways of relieving stress. I have mantras and little prayers and affirmations all over my desk. I use them all the time. They're silent prayers and phrases that we can do when we're practicing breath focus. So if we go back right up to number 1, breath focus, and use a prayer or mantra with our breath work, it's as simple as doing that. Now, the other way to use this is whenever you're in a fearful place or you're really stressed, stop. Here's the acronym: stop, take a breath, own your outcome, and use a prayer. Stop, take a breath, own your outcome, use a prayer. And the prayer could just be a simple mantra that you say, which could be, in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, all is good. In this moment, I have everything I need. Whatever the mantra is that supports you, practice it, use it whenever you need it. So let's just do a recap of these different self-care practices. Relaxation, meditation, breath focus, doing body scans and progressive relaxation, doing a guided imagery or going to your happy place, being more mindful, right, with your breath, with your activities, with your meals, with each other, with your mind. Doing activities such as yoga, tai chi, and also using repetitive prayers and mantras. All right, so let's continue with our self-care practices. Oops. Okay, so we're taking good care of ourselves. Now, we also want to be able to take care of those in our homes, people that we care about, whether it's our children, our parents, our neighbors. And first and foremost, again, you want to have an open dialogue, and I'm going to talk more around helping our kids cope. So be open with them, be honest, acknowledge your concerns with them, but also allow them to share their concerns with you, because you want to be able to give them reassurance. whether it's your kids, it's your parents, or maybe it's a friend or neighbor or colleague that is expressing their fears with you. Right? Give them reassurance. Practice with them some of the things that we're talking about here, because it's about modeling good coping skills. If you're doing the right things, if you're being honest and you're sharing with your kids and your family, look, this is a challenging time. I'm having, I'm having a little bit of a hard time coping, but here's what I'm going to do. Let's do it together, right? So practice and model good coping skills. Now, also with kids, especially now that they're home, we have to do a lot more moderating and monitoring what they're watching, what the messages that they're looking at or receiving, or even putting out there. So we want to make sure that we are keeping closer tabs on that. And that also ties into maintaining routines to the best of our ability and normal schedules. Now, even though a lot of the activities that kids have been involved with, or even yourself, right? Things that we used to do, those places may have closed and we can no longer go to those gatherings or go to the sport, the Ys or the places that we used to go, right? We can still encourage more positive activities at home, but we also want to give our kids a little bit control over that. So what game would you like to play? Maybe we have, Wii Sport on our computer, or we have lots of board games that we can play. As a matter of fact, last night we celebrated my kid's 21st birthday at home with playing some board games. And it was really a lot of fun. So encourage those positive activities. Put on some music and dance around your living room. Give your kids control over some of those different things. So what games would they like to play? What clothes do they want to wear? Right? What food should we cook tonight? When we go back and look at what helps us feel more calm is the things that we have control over. So if we can give our kids control over specific things, that also gives them a sense of calm and helps with their well-being. So to get some additional information, I know I've talked about a lot of different things here, but some of the different resources that this webinar was pulled from, and if you want to get some more information about talking with your children, there's two websites listed here that I recommend. And then, as I said earlier, in order to get some up-to-date information on the COVID-19 virus itself, the CDC is a great resource, as well as the World Health Organization. I want to thank everyone, first of all, for taking the time today to listen to the webinar, and I hope that you will put into practice some of the things that we've talked about and practice self-care, practice having faith that everything's going to work out, and also to support and help your neighbors. So this information is not just for you, but this is also for non-EAP members. So if you'd like to get more information, feel free to go to the website. Think of this as more of a public service announcement. We want to be here to support you. So there's information that you can download on the portal. You'll see some examples here of you on stress, if you want more support on how to be more resilient and things that you can do when you're going through a traumatic event. These resources are there for our clients and our members, but also if you'd like to learn more about becoming a member. And as you can see, you can just go to ibhsolutions.com/resources. There's no username that you need or password that's required. And again, if you have any questions, if you are a member, make sure that you do reach out to your EAP. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on that last slide. Again, I just want to thank everyone again. This is Dr. Ellen Contenti. Be safe, be calm, and manage your stress. Thanks, everyone.